Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Monday Sparks with Teams with Hugo. As you can notice, today is not a Monday, it's a Tuesday, but that's because we had Easter weekend, and the Easter Monday was a public holiday here in the Netherlands where I live, and I decided also to take a time out from the videos, but I'm here today with you to share about anxiety and how anxiety can be coped in different ways and how it affects you. And I'm picking anxiety because it's a topic that has been recurring in conversations either at work or with some friends. And it's something that affects millions of people. And we all try to see different mechanisms to cope with anxiety. And one of the first things to understand is that anxiety displays differently from person to person. And the way you respond to it might be different from your next friend or from your work colleague or from what you read online. And it's important to understand that there are patterns and there are things that are proven to affect anxiety, but the way you react to it and the way you observe it and the way it affects your body or mind is different from any other individual. And you have to understand and learn what it means to you. So, for example, on my own case, I do understand that when anxiety displays to me in strong ways, it does affect my body and my weight severely. So, a year and a half ago, I had some really hard time with anxiety and some anxiety crisis, which led me to lose up to 10 kilos within 2-3 months. So that was really hard to face, and it took me quite some time to actually get back on track and to understand how it affects my body, how it affects my mind, and which kind of changes do I need to put in effect. And that's why I've learned a few things that I would like to share with you. And it's mostly three ways. There are three things that you have to keep in mind when dealing with anxiety. One, how does it numb your mind? Secondly, how does it feed your soul? And thirdly, how does it call your critic? And we're gonna go through the three of them very quickly. So numb your mind is some of us, when anxiety comes in, we have to see how it numbs or activates your mind. By numbing your mind means I cannot deal with this now, and I start seeing a binge watch of Netflix to basically ensure that my mind is not active and overthinking or over processing what is causing the anxiety to me. So you try to numb your mind in order to not deal with what's in front of you. One of the other ways that you numb your mind is by trying to do like very heavy sports so that you can distract yourself. And I'm not saying that they are not positive; they are good solutions, especially if you find that it's healthy for you to distract yourself. But also do not run away from it. So while you numb your mind, also keep in mind to activate it and to face what it's saying to you. So that's one of the first aspects. The second one is how it feeds your soul. So some of us start eating many more sweets, some of the food affects. So nutrition has quite an impact on anxiety. There are some foods that can reduce anxiety and they are proven to be helping, like they might be rich in magnesium. You might have fatty fish, some Brazilian nuts. For some other people, pumpkin seeds also helps. But try to understand which kind of food eases out your anxiety, because nutrition plays a critical role. Also, the amount of food that you ingest. So that's something to keep in mind also as you take further. And the last one, which is a bit similar to the numb your mind, but is important to be separate, which is how you call your critic. All of us have the tendency and have been built to be more critic than positive. So our inner critic voice shows up frequently, and it can be really hard to spend time with it, because the more time you spend with the inner critic, the more it brings you down and the more you feel affected by it. So you have to have a way of having a conversation with your critic to call it out actually by name. You can give a name to your critic, to your inner voice, and say, hey, I'm hearing you out, but now is not the time for that. I'm going to deal with you at this time, at this day. The other way is to journal it out or to draw it out so that you can express your feelings in different way. Which comes to one of the other elements, which is about the expression of feelings. And that's the last one on the anxiety, which is sometimes if we are listening to our critic, if we numb our mind, and if we feed our soul wrongly, we are creating all these levels of anxiety and ultimately are also repressing our feelings. And because they don't come out, they start boiling up, and then you might get to a moment where you really cannot cope with it and you need some professional help. So those are all the levels of anxiety that you have to keep in mind. So, to remain healthy, make sure that you, activate your mind, that you feed well your soul in a nice way, that you chat and talk to your critic. You cannot send it away. You have to chat with it, find an agreement with it, and express your feelings in different ways and manners. And hopefully this can help you out to cope with some levels of anxiety in different ways. Find out what works for you, and hopefully you can find the time to be more healthy on the mind wise and also on the body wise. So have a great week ahead, and see you next Monday.